made this book, and it's quite revealing, quite naked. Can you tell us a little bit about the birth of that project and how it came about?
I think it was not really meant to be a book, to be honest. It was more of a, we call it workbook. So there's a way of working in the studio to actually show what's happening behind each result or each product. But I guess when you're turning 10, you start to reflecting, and that was what we did last year. And starting gathering what we actually have done ended up in a book. It's really from the start where we went to school. So starting school, and then the first day of graduation day, we went to the bank and started a company, and that's what we've been doing since then. So it's actually like year by year, and you can actually see. Of course, it's our story, but I think it's more interesting to see what's happening in the world. Like how was the design industry back in 2005, and how is it today? We are consuming a lot, and back then no one was actually questioning it. So design industry was fun, designers were stars, it was very conceptual design scene, which I had very hard time coping with. And now I think design coming from this region in the world is quite relevant. So Scandinavian design was not as interesting back in 2005 as it is now.
So Steve, your record, Wild Youth, is also quite sort of autobiographical, and it really talks about the different sort of areas of your life.
Sure.
And while you released it, you also did a lot of other things around it, not just the record, but products and clothes. And what is that? Is that not enough to do a book? I mean, to do a CD?
I think I grew up in a physical world, where we consumed products in a different way, where you valued stuff you buy. You went to the record store, you bought a vinyl, and you took it at heart. My love for objects is massive. I've always wanted to consume things that I love and appreciate things that I buy. So for me, it was now when I had a time to release something independently where everything was dependent on me, I feel like I could go all in, no compromises whatsoever. So I started with the art, and then after I created the art, we got the title, and then once I had a title and the art, I actually made the music to match the art. So I did it a little differently, and then I created a lot of videos before I actually created the songs. So I kind of scored my own art, which was weird.
But you also did design objects.
We did ceramic design objects that were made ceramic in Germany, and then we hand painted them in Småland. We have art, posters and prints, and we've created a book that captures the past 3.5 years. We've made clothing collections with a Swedish brand called Austere. I work with another clothing company called Noir to create jackets specifically for certain tracks, just to fit the mood. Speaker collaborations, bags, there's loads.
So Jessica, obviously you talked about your objects for books that you've designed for your love of books and to sort of solve a problem in your house. Is there a ritual around buying books or reading books, or is there anything else that goes on in your house?
They're moving around a lot of books because they are everywhere. These objects are of course very important for me because I don't want them to get lost. So it's a way of like keeping them close to the sofa or the armchair. So that's why I made them. So it's even though it's in a way objects maybe not necessary, but it's objects which I need in my daily life.
You've designed a ton of retail spaces and physical spaces. Do you think that the physical space has become more important, or do you notice that that brands and companies and people put more emphasis on the physical space?
Back in 2010, we were doing one of the first online, helping an online brand, which was in Finland, then was later turned into Hem, which is an online brand today. And I mean, I think those companies needs to have a physical space, and you also need to have an online space. So I think something in between traditional brick and mortar shops and online is probably the way to do it.
Some of your stores are quite whimsical and fun and imaginative, which I haven't seen before. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, one example is a store we did in Södermalm, which is a very traditional pen store, which we turned into more of a gallery, maybe more as how a sports brand is trying like connect the shoes to sports profession. We want to connect the traditional pen industry to artists. So that's what was one approach to it.
How about you, Steve? I mean, music, obviously, in a world where things are streamed, you kind of started or were part of a movement that was all about getting together large groups of people and dancing. That's a whole different experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. For us, it's about pleasing a consumer, where you buy it. You want the whole experience to be good, where you want to buy a ticket in the right way. You want to get the right advertising, and you want to come to a concert. You want the same experience when you get to the space, where you have to kind of design a good space where people can actually have a good time and enjoying. And my world is so digital. There's no more record stores. They close almost everything. Now we see a revival within the vinyl industry and posters and books about music and so on and so forth. But I think what's happening is the whole digital market has made it so much easier for people to create products, but at the same time it's made us appreciate the physical object more. I think coming in here, for example, you can look through books and you can see and touch and feel. It has so much more value. And that's obviously what we try to create on the live element as well, where if we would just show up and play and not think about the surroundings, I don't think it will be as good of an experience.
You even have a production company and a creative studio that does graphic design, and so what role does that have in your music?
I think I started that, obviously because my passion for graphic design and creating stuff. I just want to create anything that I feel needs to be done, So it's kind of tricky at the time because when we started out, it was very digital. All our marketing was digital, and dance music was so small at the time, so we couldn't do any activations, or we couldn't do books or objects because nobody would buy it. But with time, I think we got more and more respected and became a genre and became artists that people actually could consume. So we could run free and just create all these crazy things. And that's what we did for a couple of years. And now it's becoming even more professional, where we're lending our services to other bigger companies and creating advertising and creating campaigns and creating books and graphics and whatever that could be.
What does your house look like?
My personal house?
Yes.
Oof. It's very little things. We try to find some kind of core in everything. Like, it's hard to tell a lot of stories at the same time. You need a headline on something. So the best design, I think, is the design that doesn't need like an explanation. You don't need to explain the whole story behind it. Of course, you should be able to tell that, but the user should actually, just understand the objects directly, I think.
How about you, Steve? What does your house look like? Is it a lot of different things, or is it a sort of a stringent
It has
style?
a core, for us. It has a core, Scandinavian, simple. I have one wall with a lot of stuff going on, but I need my inspiration. I've created my own little world because I like to be in the studio a lot. So I just want to walk out of the studio and get inspired by what's around me. And so usually I walk around in different rooms and do weird things.
And when you say that, Scandinavian design, what does that mean to you? What is it?
I think it's the earth tones and the woods and the minimalism. And I think Scandinavian for me is a touch rather than a design. I think it's a feeling, an emotion. I think we see different things, growing up here than we do in, for kids in America. They have a very colorful or very glamorous or very sparkly environment, where ours is pretty gray and earthy, So I feel like we have more restrictions here when it comes to being crazy, and that's how we are as people as well.
A good idea obviously can spread to many forms. It could start as a song and become a book or a film or whatever. Do you think that this idea of Scandinavian design can take other shapes than physical objects?
I mean, as a concept, yes. I feel like, when it comes to music, for example, we have a Scandinavian sound.
How about you, Jessica? What does it mean to you? You talked about Italian design having a finish that you see lacking in some of the Scandinavian manufacturers. What does it mean to you, the idea of Scandinavian design?
I think it's a difference between like the Scandinavian Modern, which is for me the old stuff. They are great, and they are great in the quality and the details. Difficult. I don't feel so much connected to the new Nordic style. For me, it's a lot of styling and very little. It's a lot of styling, and I'm about every object. For me, it's the same when I pick things for my home. I love every object which I bring home, and so I'm not interested in a trend or in a style just short term. I'm interested in a great piece.
So this idea of Scandinavian design being born out of austerity and the climate and using materials that were locally accessible, how do you guys think it will change with the influx of people who weren't born here, whose last name isn't Svensson? Maybe their idea of functionality or use or everyday kind of function is different than us. Do you think that a more global world will change the idea of Scandinavian design?
Yeah,
all of you.
Yeah. I hope so, and it will probably be quite interesting that it will come into a new phase, and new designers or people who think about it, Scandinavian in another way.
What do you think about that, Steve?
I think so. But we have such passion here for our classic furniture and our classic design that I feel like we're not going to lose it, but at the same time we will get influence. But at the same time, when it comes to materials and stuff, we usually create stuff for the people that are here, and we're not. A normal Swedish family won't spend $20,000 on a table made of Carrara marble and gold details. So I think our simplicity will still remain, especially if you look back at old Danish furniture. I think that will still remain and hopefully won't change too much.
How about Jonas? Do you think the influx of foreign influence will change the way that we design here?
I hope so. I think it's constantly changing, and there are brands that want to nail the Scandinavian design, but protecting it or preserving it, I think, is not that interesting. I think it needs to constantly evolve. And what we're doing here, not only what I'm doing, but a lot of people are doing, I think is quite relevant to a lot of industries around the world. And we see companies coming from China and India and South America.
You mentioned Brazil.
Yeah, because they think what we stand for is interesting, and kind of fuse that into what they have in their culture could be something new.
So sort of rounding up here, what is there anything this week that you guys are excited about? Any shows or anything, any talks or anything that you're excited to go to or listen to? Or is there any project that you're currently involved in that you are excited about?
We're having our retrospective exhibition at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts, Konstakademin. It's nice because it's open for public. Design Week is usually quite internal, so it's nice to have a space where people could actually go and visit.
I'm excited about this. I'm not staying, unfortunately, but next time.
How about you?
On Thursdays, there's a panel discussion about architecture in Stockholm, I think it was, and Claes Britton will discuss that, and I think he's a very interesting person. I look forward to that panel discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming. As a small token of our appreciation, we would like you to take a book. So please pick any book, and that will be our small gift for you to take home.
Thank you.
So thank you all for coming, and thank you all for coming as well.
Tack.